So this is the shield over here. It's actually quite a large shield, actually it's quite massive, and the bazooka is probably even larger. So the bazooka is actually comprised of two components. There's a rifle that connects onto the bazooka, but you can actually have them separate, of course. And the bazooka in turn can also attach to the shield. So there are all the parts over there. Not that many. This is the last stretch, so I'm pretty chuffed. The only real problem so far is that this is bent upwards, so I just need to heat that up a bit and straighten that out. But not too many parts. It's not going to require too much color variation either. I think I'm just going to go for a medium grey pretty consistently. There's going to be a lot of detail as well happening just in terms of decals or decals, as well as little screws and things like that that are metal. And then obviously the shield, I just need to find the other part that sits at the back. So quite a bit of masking is going to be required there. That's just the approach I prefer. Just going to spray this all black, silly putty the hell out of it, and then spray that with silver to get that silver trim all around. So next up is just going to be the priming of the different parts, and going to try and bash through this as quickly as possible. This is the rearmost part of the shield, and what I've done there, just to keep it consistent with the engines at the back, is I've sprayed everything black, so you can see all the recesses are black, and what I'm just doing now, after putting a gloss coat on, is I'm just filling that with silly putty. So quite easy to do. You could also do a reverse wash, which can be quite messy. Plugging in the silly putty, just filling it up to the line is actually quite easy and leveling it off. So I decided to do it this way, and I'm just going to spray that with a gunmetal, same as before. So if you just look at the sides there, just having that consistent colour, I'm going to have that all on the raised edges. Moving forward, I've now painted the actual rifle. What I've done here is try to go for a two-tone, fairly simple. I haven't done any masking or anything, just all I've done is taken a bit of a lighter grey tone for all the peripherals, and then the rifle itself, which is going to be connected to this guy here, have been painted a darker grey. It looks obviously a bit plasticky at the moment. That's because I've also gloss coated it and panel lined it, so it's obviously a bit glossy, so once it gets a flat coat that'll look a bit better. The shield is largely done. This is the underside, as you saw where I masked before. That's looking pretty cool and consistent with those boosters. I ended up painting these a black gunmetal. It's came out quite textured. I think the paint has just really aged, so it's got a bit of an iron feel to it. But otherwise that is going to look pretty good. These will be connected together, and that gets connected onto that shield there. And this then obviously plugs in onto the inside over here. And then this is going to go on top. So I obviously have quite a lot of work to do just in terms of spraying all of these. A lot of masking there. As you know, I prefer to do the masking technique rather than the reverse wash. I just find it less messy, and I also always have a habit of nicking the back panel and just always having to redo it. So I'm just going to mask that off. I've already started over here, just doing that in sections, masking it off with silly putty. These are the blades also that plug into the sides here, and these also clip into the back of the shield. And I've just gone for a gunmetal, same as the inside of the shield. I'm going to leave that as a gloss coat, and I just obviously need to give these another coat of red and do some weathering and that sort of thing. Quite a lot of masking work required here, but had to do that in stages. But I always love this part of pulling it all back. There you go, so definitely a few flakes and things like that I just need to remove, but otherwise that should be okay. Next up, the emblem. The gun, or the rifle, is looking pretty cool now that it's been matte painted and put together. I ended up having a bit of a yellow-red tinge in there with the gradient rather than going metallic. And the two-tone actually works quite nicely, I think. So just the dark barrel, or length of the gun is dark with the peripherals in a lighter grey. And also have a bit of black over there just to kind of make that darker as well. So that looks pretty good. The shield took a lot of time, a lot longer than I was hoping to So I found that the latest silly putty I've been using just hasn't been sticking to the top surface of the gloss coats. I've been using Future 4 polish rather than the yellow varnish. I was just finding I was getting better results and better finish. But the silly putty doesn't really stick to it, so I was having a lot of trouble there, having to do a lot of different sections where I couldn't get the silly putty in. So that just took a few iterations, and I eventually got there. So as before, the black gloss with the gunmetal. So this is obviously a bit messed up, but what I ended up doing is putting a magnet in there rather than gluing it, and I'll come to that in a second. And then obviously the shield, everything is red, pre-shaded as before, nothing too different there. But what I've also found is that these blades, which I've also done same gunmetal, I'm going to need to do something to get a tighter fit. They are very loose and they kind of wobble around, so I need to address that. I may tidy that up, but given that it's going to be attached, I'm not too worried about it. With respect to the Sinanju itself, I finally managed to actually get those heels to go back down, so thanks to Matt for showing me his video, just really demonstrating that it is possible. So I've got that heel back down there. Feet are flat, but what I did have to do is I just couldn't crank down those bolts fine enough. You might remember from my previous video, or probably said it in this video already, that I stripped one of the bolts in there. So what I ended up having to do is actually just come in there with milli putts. You can probably see it peeking through over there. It isn't quite a tight fit yet, so I can probably hide that a bit more. But given that you're not going to be looking inside, I'm not too fussed about it. I might actually just paint that black to make it less obvious. But anyway, I'm very glad it's standing. So mentioned I had to secure it with milliput. That's not just the actual ankles, so the two parts. So you've got these feet that move. I couldn't get those tightened down enough. And then also had those ankles where you got those pistons with the springs that just kept on really wanting to flick that heel up. So I ended up securing all of that down. So it is a pity. This is supposed to be a fully posable kit, but it feels more like you can get it into a pose, but then you need to secure it in that pose. It's not something you're really going to come back to. So I've got a wide leg stance, which is looking pretty cool. So let me just lift that up. And I had to do the same on the actual waist. So with all that mucking around with the stripping of the bolts and stuff, I ended up messing this up. And even trying to pin that down, I just wasn't having any luck. And I ended up just coming to an agreement on a pose and filling that with milliput as well. I'll paint that black, but again, you're going to have all the skirts covering all of that up, so I'm not too worried about that at all. With all the fiddling and the posing and everything like that, I found that the waist ended up becoming looser and looser. I thought it was a ball and socket joint, but it actually turned out it was just a screw, and somehow that screw came out, and what happened then is I couldn't actually screw it back in because you would actually need to rotate the whole upper body on that waist to try and screw it back in, because I'd already glued everything beforehand. And because of this little catch at the back, which I believe is to be used to hold the rifle, I couldn't actually rotate it because it was then banging against the upper torso. So what I ended up doing there as well is I ended up using good old milliputs, and I really just worked it all the way in there, kind of sandwiched it down, got it in there to really just lock that in position and not have any play. Once I did that, I then started playing with the shield. So what you can see here, and this is why I magnetized, is the shield gets attached to this arm. And with all the posing and things like that, I just wasn't comfortable having this really heavy shield in there. So by magnetizing it, I can have quite a strong magnet, and that can attach there. At long last, this G-System Sinanju is in my displays case. I'm really excited to have it there. It is a lot bigger than I was anticipating. I'm going to have to lower the shelf or raise the shelf above it. It's about the same size as a quarter scale. I'll lift the camera in a minute just so you can see what I mean. But it's really cool. In terms of posability, it is nothing like a perfect grade. You are really, really limited. It could also just be the fact that, yes, it is a resin kit, but the Sinanju itself, there's so much armor, there's very little you can actually do because there's so much in the way. It's also definitely a bit of a balancing act. So I do find that it can stand without the shield, but I probably wouldn't want to leave it that way in case it falls backwards. So having that shield in the front there definitely helps support the weight. The rifle as well, the hand doesn't actually hold onto the rifle. There's no mechanism to actually plug that in. You'd have to pin that in. So it's kind of loose standing at the moment, and I've got it resting on the glass or the shelf at the bottom. And what you can see over here is the arm is bent and actually resting against the armor just so that it doesn't fall all the way forward. I was hoping I could get the actual shield lifted up a bit more, but what you've seen, I was looking at the photos again, even if I did have the bazooka to let it rest on the shelf, I actually don't have a big enough display case. So really happy to have that in there. Let me just come in for a bit of a closer look. This is at night with just the halogen lamps, but he's all in there. The pose, not super amazing. A lot of these poses I've seen have just been with his arms at the sides, nothing too exciting, nothing too dynamic. So I'm going to leave that for a while, see how that grows on me. But if I compare that, let's say, to the perfect grades, I'm just going to lift the camera. You can see how massive the Sinanju is. So if I just, there's the quarter scale I was telling you about. And there's the Sinanju, the Astro Red frame. Highly posable, but it is looking so sleek by comparison. So if I just pull back, you can actually look at everything. You can see how large that Sinanju is. It is a beast. So can you imagine if they'd done a 1/60th scale rather than a 1/72? So anyway, thank you very much for sticking around. It's been a lot of work in progress over a good couple of years. I don't know what my next project's going to be. Probably going to have a bit of a break. But please stick around, and I'll see you soon.